Okay, so I'm going to go over this next assignment called a mundane moment. And the idea behind this assignment is you're going to pick an everyday moment in your life, something super simple, and that's going to be the subject matter for the web pages that you'll design. There'll be two web pages. So one is going to be focused on using mostly words, typography, to describe that mundane moment. And then the other page is going to focus on mostly images. So you're going to have one that is type dominant, and the other one is going to be image dominant, but both are going to be focused on the same subject matter. So to get you started, what you should be thinking is how you organize this. So have two folders or two directories, one focused on the image dominant version and the other focused on the type dominant version. I already have folders set in here for my images. There'll be an index.html file here too. In the image dominant folder, I already have some images. So I'm going to be focusing on my pocket operator, which is a little synthesizer. So that's going to be the focus of my mundane moment here. So this is what the pocket operator looks like. And I have various shots. You can take photos. It can be a variety of things. Maybe it's turning off your alarm clock in the morning, eating some sort of sandwich, whatever. Just get a variety of photos. The image dominant site should be 80% photos. The type dominant site should be 80% type. For the image dominant site, you'll be using a lot of image tags. For the type dominant site, you'll be exploring some CSS for the typography, and maybe you'll be doing some work in Photoshop as well to create some interesting things with the type. So let me go into brackets just to get this started here. And here is brackets. So I'm going to start, let's say, with the image dominant version. So I'm going to save this as my index.html file, and I just have to look for that image dominant folder here. So there's my image dominant folder, and I'll save this as index.html. So I'll start with my boilerplate code here, and in the title I will give it a proper title. So this is a mundane moment, and I'll also say image dominant, just so I remember what this is. Now, this one is going to be fairly simple. It's just going to be a series of img tags pointing to these images. And I will copy and paste. Let me just get the right names here. So there's an image, and I'll do that again. And here's another image. So I have some images set in this image dominant version, and maybe I'll add some text as well, but remember, it's not a lot of text. So I'll say my pocket operator. Save, and then let's have a look. And you'll see that these images are huge, so that's actually kind of cool to have a nice big thumb there. Kind of like the quality of the iPhone images here. So the next thing to think about is to really create a design that is interesting and makes sense. So you're going to have to adjust these images. So this is where some Photoshop work is going to come handy. So let me bring up Photoshop. Now, you're going to be limited in terms of the flow of the images. It's still going to go top to bottom, but you can do some interesting things in terms of collage and changing things around here. So, like I said, the images are too big, first off, so I'm going to go into the image dominant folder and select one of these images here. Now, if I look at the size, if I go to image size, 300 dpi, 10 by 13. So the first thing, this is important, make sure your image resolution is set to 72, and that's going to scale things down for you. Your height and width, make sure it's set to pixels, and that's going to create a smaller image. I'm going to hit save, going to go back into brackets. This image was 9268, so I will actually copy this and put it at the beginning. And now we'll have a look. So that's a lot better in terms of size, but maybe you want to play around with some different aspects of this. And let me go back here. So saying this is my pocket operator. So a couple things you can do here is in Photoshop, play with scale. So I'll create an artboard here, drag this out, and maybe isolate an aspect of this. So I will drag the artboard in, maybe just focus on the batteries. Maybe I'll do that again with this artboard. This time around, how about I rotate the image? So I'll go into my move tool, hit Command A, and actually go into my layers. And select that image here, rotate it. Maybe I want to focus on this text here for whatever reason. So I'll go back to my artboard tool and kind of crop that in. Okay, so now I got some more elements here. And what I'll do here is maybe let's go ahead and rename a couple of these. So let's call this one batteries. We'll call this one sideways. And then I'll go into my export here, do a export as. Have my 3 different images I want to play with, and I'll only export sideways and batteries since I already exported artboard 1. I will go ahead and export, go into my image dominant folder, go to images, Open that up. Now they're exported. So I'll go back into brackets and I'll add some more image tags. Let's say I point to batteries this time. So there are some batteries there. So one of the things you might want to do is for your image dominant page, create a web page, go to web in Photoshop, pick the web large option, let's say hit create, so you have a document set for this, and then maybe throw all the images that you're using for that moment. So what you can do in Photoshop is go into File, Place, Embedded, select the images that you want to play with here. Actually, there's another option too. You can go to File, Scripts. So under File, Scripts, if you go into Load Files in the Stack, it will let you look for a whole series of images and load them all in to your document all at once. So I have a bunch of images here. Give it a couple seconds. And so they're all here. And then what you can do is start to think about different ways to play with the design here. And just kind of experiment with this. And you can even add your text in here too if you want. Maybe you want to do something a little different here. And let's see, I'll just make this text white. Here I'm gonna just, I had this for whatever reason it saved it as this flat file, so I'll just play with the blend mode. And let's see, I'll just move this up here. I will add a shape in the background too. Fill it with color. Maybe bring that up here as well. Hit Control T to transform. Just kind of eyeball it. Do that ghosting effect a little bit. All right, so maybe this is what I'm going to use for the image dominant page. I could add more text here, some descriptions. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of the layers here, create a new layer, and then hit Shift Command Option E, and it flattens everything in that new layer. And now one thing that you can do is you can separate pieces of your artwork, and instead of having this saved as one huge file, I recommend saving it as maybe a couple different sections. So there's another tool in here, and if we go into Photoshop, it is, I don't see it, so what I have to do is actually click on these three dots, go to Edit Toolbar, hit Restore Defaults, hit Done, and then underneath my Crop tool is the Slice tool. And what I can do with this is just drag over, and it slices the image into two pieces. Let's see, maybe I'll slice it one more time here. So now I have, no, I can't really do that. So you can slice it, things horizontally, and it will be fine, but if you slice things vertically, it's not going to flow right. So just slice it horizontally. So I have two separate pieces now for my image dominant site. Now I'll go back into export. And give it a few seconds. And I think this is just too big. But actually I'm going to go to export and go to the Save for Web Legacy. And what this will let you do is save out your slices. So I have a 1 and a 2 here. I'm going to save these as PNG 24. Give it a few seconds. It's thinking. Go to Save. And then down below here, pick all slices. Find your image dominant folder. Go into Images. I'll just call this Image Dominant. Hit Save. Let it think here. So now when I go into my image dominant folder, I got two pieces. I got the top half and I got the bottom half. So now when I go into brackets, instead of, and for some reason it saved it in another images folder, so I'm going to just copy these, go up one, and save these images with everything else. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into brackets. So here I really just need two image sources, and for this one I will pick image dominant 1 for the image on top. I'll just copy, paste that, and now I have two image sources for image dominant. Give it a look here. It's pretty big. So I may want to look at my size here. And oops, the other one is broken. So let's see. Let's see why that's broken. Oh, because it saved it as a GIF for whatever reason. So, okay. So, and there's my other image. So I got my two images here. You may want to go back and just figure out scale. I think this site. I'll reduce that. So I'm reducing the whole thing and go back and export again. But if you're going to use this slice tool to cut things up, for now you can only do it with horizontal slices because we aren't getting into the CSS for lining things up vertically. So this is a good example of an image dominant page. And here I'm going to, let's see, just make this smaller so you can see the whole thing. And now for an example of a type dominant page, this is where you're going to start to explore some style sheets if you want to. But you can also kind of do something similar where you're using type and you're going to just have more type on the page itself. So I'm going to first, I'm going to get rid of these slices. If you want to get rid of the slices, you can right click and just say delete slice. And then maybe I'll kind of use this. Let's see here. Got one more slice here. I'm going to hide this. Okay. So this is, let's say, my image dominant. So type dominant, I'm going to lay this out here as well. Now for this example, what you could do is maybe use a series of shapes. Just like dividing things up, and actually with these shapes I don't want to have a outline, so if you go into stroke and turn on that red diagonal line, I'll get rid of that. So I'm going to go back in here now. Just kind of dividing this up. Sections. And I'll add some maybe a white rectangle here. So this will be image dominant, so I'll go into my type tool. Here I'll kind of do the same thing. I'll have some bigger type going across. I will give this a background. Faded. Let's see, change that color. Let's see. And then maybe play around with orientation. So I'll add and let's see, I'll add, let's say, one more box here, and I will add some text inside there. Text. And then I'll take this and I will again create a new layer, merge it with Shift Option Command E, Shift Alt Control E if you're on a PC, and then I will go ahead and use that slice tool again. So if you don't see the slices, you can click on this Show Auto Slices or Hide. So I'm going to divide this up. So this white is going to be really nothing. Maybe that's one big image right there. So maybe what I can do is take this and add some text in the middle. And space these two things out with the HTML text. So now I'm going to go to File. Again, you have to go to Legacy for this. Now the key to these slices is to pick a slice and to pick a format. So I can say one is a JPEG and one is a PNG. Go to Save. And this time I'm going to find my type dominant folder. Go to Images. Let's see. I'll just make this easy and call it PO for Pocket Operator. And it will add numbers for each slice. So format images only, settings, default settings, all slices. Hit save. Now go back into brackets, create my page for the type dominant. So save this. As my index.html. Here's my boilerplate. So here I have my saved it in multiple images folders. That's okay. So I have my one image, and I believe the second one is a JPEG. So what happens is with the slices, it created an images folder automatically, and I already had an images folder, so I'm going 2 layers down, and you can tell I'm doing that with the // So each / is a folder. So I have my images, and now I want to divide it up, and let's say I want to add some text in between. So I'll add a p tag, and maybe this is where I really talk in more detail. Now, when you look at this, after you hit save, I'm going to have 2 big images and some small text in between. So maybe what I want to do is make that text much bigger. So that's where some CSS is going to come in. So here my head tag for the CSS, for the style. I'm going to create a style tag. And then I'm going to use what's called an element selector. So I just have to, for the selector, P is going to match that element. And I want that text to be much bigger. So here I'm going to use a font size property. And let's say make that 100 pixels. End it with a semicolon, hit save, and now that's much bigger. The other thing, maybe I want to not use the serif font, because it's, for me, the pocket operator is like a high-tech thing. So maybe a sans serif font would be better in describing that. So I will use a font family property and pick sans serif. Save. Oops, I picked serif. I meant to say sans serif. And maybe the last thing I'll do is change the color. So, color. I will actually choose a color here. So I'll choose cornflower blue. Kind of matches. Hit save. And there you go. There's more of my type dominant. I could probably make it more type dominant. So, but that's the general idea. Type dominant versus image dominant. Focus on the same subject. Use Photoshop for both your type and your images. But for your type one, explore some style sheets as well to help create more text on the page.